Most of us know that running an engine with no oil in it is a bad thing. Today, we're going to see exactly what happens when you do it. This lawnmower here has less than a season on it. Really, I'd guess that it probably cut the grass maybe 10 times. Then, the guy pushing it reported to me that it backfired really loud and quit running. Try to pull the string on it, and it doesn't turn at all. It's almost like the crankshaft seized. Before I throw it away, I figured we might as well tear it apart. Take a look at what it looks like on the inside when you run an engine with no oil. I know it's not good, but let's take a look at exactly what happens. Because it is less fun to just take this thing apart and look at the inside, I decided, let's blow one up and then see what happens. This is a perfectly good running Briggs motor. We're going to drain the oil out of it, run it till it fails, and then take it apart and this mower. Let's get started. Well, that's a little anticlimactic if that was it. Let's see if we can get it started again. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's seized. Let's take them both apart, see what they look like inside. Nothing unusual about the head or combustion chamber. You can see this huge heat affected zone across here. If it fucking focus. So you can see the huge heat affected zone from here to here and runs the whole way. It's also really, really gouged up in there. Here's that upper rod bearing. You can see how trashed it is. I mean, all the way across here. Closer inspection, I think that the connecting rod on this is the actual bearing. Interesting. I've never pulled one of these apart to actually look, so. Yeah. But I don't think this comes off. This is, you can see there's no separation here, like there would be if there was a bearing shell and then the connecting rod. I think the connecting rod is the bearing surface. The piston, it's definitely taken some damage. This side is not really bad, but if I flip it around, it's super scuffed up. I can actually run my hand across here and I can feel a whole bunch of ridges. So that got chewed up really well too. I don't know if that's from running it without oil, though I'm certainly that definitely didn't help anything, but I don't know if that's just because this is a pretty old motor. Oh, holy crap. Yeah, I think we know where the biggest problem was. Holy cow, look at that. I mean, it just ate that bearing. Let's take a look at the rod journal while we're here. It definitely got hot. I can feel a gouge in there, and you can see it's all discolored. But this, holy cow. Before we get into the next one, let's take a quick look at the block on this guy. A couple of things that I hadn't looked at yet. So, first of all, let's look at the cylinder. It's a little bit scuffed, but all things considered, that cylinder is not bad. It hardly has any wetness up here, so this motor still had a lot of life left on it. Well, until we ran it out of oil. At any rate, that cylinder is in perfectly good shape. But look at this main bearing. I mean, that looks like, you know, frickin' screw or a cheese grater. Wow, that's just destroyed. That's the oil hole there. So it just wasn't getting any oil, and this is what went first. That just completely ate the crankshaft. That's what seized it. Well, I cracked it open, and that's all of the oil that was in this thing. So that definitely explains why it quit working. This is kind of fun. This is an overhead valve motor. So I took these out. The tappet's pushed right up in through here. Well, basically, it's got little rocker arms. I mean, they're just cheap stamped steel things, but it's interesting anyway. I separated the head and pulled the valves out. This is from that first one. So this is the intake here. The new one, that's the intake. Look at the difference there. It's ridiculous. Here are the push rods out of it. It's a Mopar V8 push rod. Alright, let's take a look at this rod bearing. It's a little scuffed up, but that doesn't look bad at all. In the light of the garage, both those bearings looked good, but boy, here in video, you can tell that they're pretty bad. This is almost certainly why it seized up and quit turning. Well, there we have it. Two small engines, run with no oil, pulled apart. This larger one, pretty obvious what happened. This bearing, this main bearing here, seized up and it was completely toast. This smaller guy, the main bearings and the rod bearing looks fine. Looks fine over here on the piston. So I'm not sure why it seized up, but it definitely wasn't working either. That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.